Hi, I'm Harman. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about our work for which the goal was to study automated emotion recognition technology and compare its output to self-reported affect from people. Let me begin by explaining our motivation. Affective computing applications increasingly rely on automated emotion recognition. These applications are being used in all kinds of domains. For example, in education to support learning by monitoring emotion and motivation in real time, in healthcare, for diagnosis and treatment of emotionally influenced diseases and helping the emotional development of children with autism, for helping people journal and monitor their own emotions, and for mood-based recommendations. While this technology used to be largely speech or text-based, recent work has also proposed the use of AER that is based on facial analysis. In this work, we consider two basic questions about facial analysis-based AER technology. First, should we consider this technology at all? After all, there are several ethical and privacy considerations here that we cannot ignore. And second, can this technology be used reliably? Is it capturing the right signal, which shows how people actually feel? To study these questions, we conducted a combined tool use and diary study. We asked 15 people at a large technology company to download an AER tool for a day and maintain a diary for the same day. Our goal was to characterize and compare affect signals from these two sources. To help with that, we also conducted retrospective interviews with our participants the day after the study. This helped us review and contextualize both kinds of affect signals. We obtained observed emotion and context data from an AER tool. This tool gave us 8 basic emotion labels as outputs and also recorded people's workplace context, which included mouse and keyboard usage, computer application activity, browser tab activity, physical proximity from the screen, and eye movement data. In contrast, for the reported affect and context data from people's diaries, our goal was to obtain similar data to the tool, but in the form of subjective feedback from people. So we asked them questions about their tasks and workplace context, and asked them to record this information in their diary every 30 minutes. Finally, for the follow-up interview, we created an artifact that combined both signals. We plotted the observed emotion signals over time. For example, here you can see the data about anger emotion plotted for one participant over 5-minute intervals for their entire day. The x-axis shows the time in 5-minute intervals, and the y-axis shows a 0 to 1 probability value for how much this emotion was seen during the 5-minute interval. We superimposed this data with the diary entries for the relevant time intervals for the participant. This allowed the participants to view both data sources at once and answer questions about whether they were aligned and whether they were a good representation of their previous workday. So let's look at the first question we asked. Should we use this technology at all? Given all the justified critiques of facial analysis-based technology presented in prior work, we decided to use an existing AER tool that was privacy-preserving as much as possible. This tool does not record any audio or video data. Instead, it computes emotion labels and context in real time and only records these output labels. Here you can see the output from the tool, and the bounding box on the left represents the location of a face in the video. As you can see, the actual video is not recorded. Similarly, all the emotion and context signals are provided based on real-time analysis. Let's look at some themes from participants' interviews providing feedback on the AER technology. Not surprisingly, privacy and autonomy were important considerations. People were worried about surveillance with this type of technology and only wanted to use it if the data could be accessed by them alone. They did see the benefits of the visualizations, but they did not want to be in a situation where the use of such a tool could be mandated by organizations. Participants also perceived the tool to be reliable. They were surprised by how much their diary entries matched the output emotion labels and the activity monitoring. They felt that the tool consistently captured their facial expressions. For example, for participant 15, the tool consistently labeled whenever they yawned as surprise. They felt that if they could fix the label, it would consistently work accurately. The tool output only 8 emotion labels. It could not distinguish between other emotions that had similar facial expressions to these 8. Plus, people's expressions in front of a computer screen here were classified against training data that relied on posed expressions. As a result, for a participant who was short and constantly had to look up at their screen, their expression registered as anger, even though they were not always angry. They were mostly just working. Finally, participants noted the opportunities for mood-based journaling and tracking as a result of using this tool. The visualizations made sense, and the participants could see themselves using the tool to track their own mood and goals. The answer to our post question was not an easy yes or no. We found that participants weren't entirely against using AER technology. They did see quite a few benefits to it and were invested in improving the tool. But they wanted data privacy and the autonomy to make necessary changes to the emotion labels attached to their own facial expressions. Moving on to our next question, this was about whether AER can be used reliably. To answer this question, we first characterized observed emotion using various metrics and then compared them to the self-reported affect from participant diaries. The AER tool output data at a microsecond level, which was hard to parse. To convert it into a more understandable format, we aggregated the data over 5-minute intervals and assigned it the dominant emotion during that interval. This has also been done by prior work for AER outputs. We observed two patterns. First, that emotions with a negative valence were dominant more often. As you can see here, the chart is mostly red, yellow, and blue in color, and these were all negative valence emotions. Second, that women show sadness as their most dominant emotion far more frequently than men. This is at odds with prior work in psychology, which says that women usually display more positive emotions than men. We considered what might be causing this in further analysis. Dominant emotions can overlook the sensitivity of emotions that are recorded at values higher than their usual amount. We considered this a new metric, emotion spikes, and measure the percentage of times each emotion spikes beyond its usual rate. When we look at these charts, certain emotions keep coming up for a participant throughout the day. We term these emotions as baseline emotions because they're present for more than 90% of the day. Now we see a different affect profile, especially for women. All women have sadness as a baseline emotion. If you remove that baseline emotion data, emotion spikes now match the expected emotion base rates from psychology studies. To obtain reported affect from diaries, we code the overall feeling reported by participants as having positive, neutral, or negative valence. The overall profiles now are pretty balanced, and they seem to match emotion spikes better than dominant emotions. More on that next. When we directly compare reported affect for various time intervals with observed emotion via chi-square tests, we find that there is very little alignment between the two signals. Both dominant emotions and emotion spikes are aligned only 35 to 36% with reported affect. On adding workplace context data to shape these emotion signals, the details of which you can read in the paper, we find that alignment does improve for emotion spikes. This is the best alignment we are able to achieve between the two signals. Here are some key takeaways for future work. Thank you.